Hello and welcome to the Crumbs Magazine podcast, the food and drink show for home cooks, restaurant lovers,
and basically anyone with a fondness for filling their face.
Hosted by Jessica Carter, Dan Izzard and Natalie Brereton of Team Crumbs, each episode is packed with news, trends and insider knowledge from the southwest and beyond to help us all make the most of our local food and drink scene.
This week we talk about the Oaxaca Dine and Dash news, get the lowdown on Freddie Bird's new restaurant, chat to Poco's Jen Best and Ben Pryor about their recent Future Food event, and announce the Crumbs Awards judges.
First, just in case you were somehow unaware, guys, and yet to market appropriately, this week is Negroni week.
Ooh!
It's also, 2019 is also the cocktail's 100th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Negroni.
Happy birthday, Negroni!
This cocktail's really taken off over the last few years, hasn't it? I remember talking to a bartender probably, 4 or 5 years ago. And when I told him the Negroni was my favourite cocktail, he gave me a bit of a funny look and said it was a bit of a blokey drink.
No.
He needs to get right in the sea. Off he
Cocktails
goes.
are gender neutral. Even porn star martinis.
So you tell yourself.
I do.
It's everywhere now though. Everyone's loving them, and everyone does their own versions, don't they? The most common story of how this drink came to be, I'm going to set the scene here.
Okay.
It's Florence, it's 1919.
Oh, hold on, I think we need some appropriate music. Let me just dig into the archives. You may begin.
Okay, we're in Florence. We're in the year 1919. Most importantly, we're in a bar where Count Camillo Negroni is sat.
Fancy.
He's got a bit of a thirst on,
Ooh.
this Count. And being a fan of the Americano cocktail, which is made with Campari, sweet vermouth and soda, he asked the barman to go a bit off-piste and swap out the water for gin.
I like the sound of this, Count.
He just came across gin on his travels to Britain.
Oi, oi! You know we're good for something, introducing him to gin, eh?
And it took off, as you would imagine. Traditionally, it's obviously served equal parts of all three ingredients and is usually garnished with a twist of orange, but there are naturally infinite variations. Ratios can be played with and ingredients added and swapped out, like gin for Prosecco is one example. And Little Victories at Wapping Wharf in Bristol knocked together a fine cold brew Negroni, I've been told lately. Has anyone tried that?
I've tried that one, I can confirm. I've done multiple afternoon sessions of research into that, and it is definitely one to try.
Nice, on the list. I've, of course, being the professional that I am, have conducted some thorough first-hand research.
Obviously.
On where to get a cracking Negroni, but what do you guys reckon? Where do you guys go for your favourite serves?
I'm partial to a Pasta Loco Negroni from Dom. It's just a little bit of magic in there, isn't there? One of my favourites, I'd say.
And probably the rummer. I've had a great Negroni in there with the giant sphere of ice, which I think is always necessary.
Yeah. Definitely. You just need one big block of ice going on in there. You can't have too many little guys messing around. You don't want to be
melting all over the place and you get your ratios wrong.
You've got to drink it quick before it gets diluted as well.
Pie Shop used to do that great Negroni with a massive chunk of ice in it, didn't it?
R.I.P. Pie Shop.
Yeah, we miss you, Pie Shop.
Boxy tweeted, again, agreeing with you, Nat, saying definitely Pasta Loco, but they also love Bertha's Pizza.
Now, Bertha's Pizza have a Negroni menu, I believe.
An entire menu?
Dedicated to Negronis.
Strong.
I know, when we go in.
And that's the end of today's podcast.
With mustard, said that hers in alphabetical order, very diplomatic, are Bertha's Pizza, Pasta Loco and Psycho Pomp.
Ooh, Psycho Pomp.
Yeah, definitely a good one.
Psycho Pomp themselves tweeted saying they've got too many great ones around Bristol to name, but they do big up Pasta Loco, Crying Wolf and Paco Tapas.
Crying Wolf do have a separate room specifically for the function of manufacturing ice, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's dedication.
Bath-wise, Lydia Downey suggested Canary Gin Bar, and a couple of people gave a shout out to the Dark Horse too.
I had one recently at the Dark Horse. It was delicious. A very good Negroni.
Something of a dark horse, if you will.
Oh, Dan, you're such a hoot. So, I mean, yeah, that should be plenty of inspiration for anyone wanting to celebrate the Negroni centenary.
Something you might want to watch whilst supping on a Negroni, actually. Some people that are listening might already be familiar with the restaurant that makes mistakes because we are already a few episodes in. However, if you haven't heard of it, this is a new Channel 4 documentary series following a group of volunteers who are all at different ages but living with dementia. The interesting part, however, is they are staffing a restaurant which is run by Josh Eggleton. So Josh heads up some of Bristol's most popular eateries, such as the Pony and Trap, Salt and Malt and Root in Wapping Wharf. And the programme explores and showcases sort of the different ways in which dementia can affect those living with it, but also how sometimes these individuals are written off by society. So within the restaurant, they are doing everything, you know, normal stuff would do in a restaurant. They're waiting on people, they're greeting them, they're taking the orders, they're in the kitchen cooking. So it's quite a big deal. But the restaurant is a good example of how these living with a condition can still thrive. Although I've been watching it and following it, and it's incredibly emotional, but it's also really heartwarming and positive. So the kitchen was actually in Station Kitchen in the centre of Bristol. And Jess, you only went down there and had a meal, didn't you? You were on TV last week.
It was like watching reverse Gogglebox.
She now doesn't speak to anyone in the office because she's famous.
No, I'm just waiting for my BAFTA nomination for Roland.
So, I mean, how was it?
Do you know what? It was so interesting and so positive. There was such a great atmosphere in the restaurant. The staff were great. They were fascinating to talk to, really open about discussing their lives, about discussing dementia in their lives, but also they just had such a great sense of humour. I think the programme actually was really good at incorporating that humour into it as well.
Definitely. And would you say, were they at the forefront? Was Josh guiding them, or was Josh more of a sideline and they were running the restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, from where I was sat, they were pretty much running the show. Josh was there in the corner, kind of being the seeing eye. But yeah, they were taking it all into their own hands.
It's impressive.
Totally impressive. Because when I first heard about this, I was kind of a bit like, why? If you're going to kind of prove the point that people with living with dementia can continue in a work environment. Why choose one of the hardest work environments?
I mean, it's a bit of a pressure cooker of an environment if there was one to work in, isn't it?
Hospitality is so brutal. Like, they were cooking, obviously, and doing front of house. But I guess it's that kind of social interaction that they wanted. You know, and that was a massive confidence builder, I think. It's definitely
worth a watch. So it's on Channel 4 at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. So do check that out if you haven't done so already.
I saw something on Twitter the other day and I was shocked. I know. Apparently, when people dine and dash, and I don't expect anyone listening to this podcast to ever have done that because it is technically theft, I'm throwing it out there. When people dine and dash, it's standard policy for some restaurants to dock the wages or the tips of the employee that was serving them.
What?
Yeah, funny one. So on Twitter, former council leader Sarah Hayward was in a branch of Oaxaca in London, the Mexican restaurant, when there was a eat and run at the next table over to hers. And then she witnessed one of the management team coming back over and actually asking the server to cover part of the bill.
That's outrageous, I think.
Which is something I've not heard of before, but, you know, it's happened in one of these chains. It might be happening elsewhere. It seems I'm not alone with my thoughts. User Berry Cookie on Twitter commented that maybe all shop staff should have their wages docked to partially cover shoplifted goods. And when you do put it like that, it does seem even more mental.
It's a valid point, isn't it? It's the same thing.
Totally.
It's worth mentioning that thanks to the power of social media and bringing it up, Oaxaca were pretty quick off the mark and have now changed their policy to say that only incidents that will be held accountable for unpaid bills are real negligence, is what they're calling. So if someone's a server and they let their mates actually get away with it. But I mean, that's going to be absolutely minor, isn't it? And no idea how it kind of made it onto the list of rules to begin with, to be honest.
No.
And if that person hadn't been sat on the next table and tweeted it and got all this coverage, then that would probably still be the policy, Which is
crazy when you think about it, really.
And I think, Nat, you mentioned there was something that went on in Bristol that was quite similar.
Yeah, there was an incident at the Cauldron restaurant in St Werburgh's where a group of 6 didn't pay and left the restaurant. And, I suppose sometimes in a bigger chain, they might have, the ability to swallow that up within the budget. But when it's a small neighbourhood run restaurant, like you said earlier, Dan, it is theft, essentially.
Yeah. That could be the difference between that restaurant making money that night and the restaurant losing money that night.
Yeah.
The margins are so tight already.
So it was interesting to read that. Obviously, that's from London. Apart from the Cauldron incident and kind of no-shows are, again, an annoyingly big thing in Bristol. But if you've got any examples of that, we'd be interested to hear.
Yeah.
This week, I swung by to visit Freddie Bird. He was the chef for Lido at 10 years and also the exec chef of Glassbroke and Three Brothers. And if you read the mag, you'll recognise him from his recipe column in there too. He is in the throes of opening a brand new restaurant.
Ooh la la.
Ooh la la. Bonjour.
Ooh la la is very appropriate as it goes. The name of the new restaurant is Little French. It's in Westbury Park in the Old Mesa Tapas Bar, I think, opposite Prago. And the opening is planned for the 5th of July. I swung by, popped my head round the door and interrupted his DIY for a super quick chat about it. Okay, we're at Little French at the minute with Freddie. It's unfinished as we speak, but Freddie, tell me a little bit about what the vibe's going to be like here once it's done. 2 weeks, did you say?
2 weeks, yeah. So it's simple, unpretentious, local neighbourhood French restaurant. Breakfast, lunch and dinner, 7 days a week, apart from Sunday evenings. Really just neighbourhood restaurant that I want to eat at. It's basically what I feel is lacking in my needs, and I think therefore hopefully other people's desires as well. At the moment it's a bit hard to see. I think I'm sitting here covered in rust and God knows what else, stripping back my charcoal grill. But there's going to be a cheese trolley. There's going to be our beautiful copper top bar. Really lovely sort of close together seating. The decor Ness, my wife, is doing at the moment. So we've got some really lovely sort of zones, if you like, within the restaurant. So I don't think there's going to be a bad seat in the house. But yeah, I mean, it's going to have that, I think, that really super friendly vibe, really neighbourhood, but also a bit of Ness's family history as well. She's from the Vosges in Alsace, and so we've got some stuff coming over from there as well. So there'll be all sorts of family trinkets and stuff hanging from the walls.
Exciting. And what about the menu? What can you tell us about what's going to be going on there?
Well, Little French, it's obviously French, but let's call it French-ish. It's going to have some classics, but it's not going to be a cliched menu, if you like. You're not going to look at it and see everything all the time. You're going to see little hints of stuff, but there's going to be lots of whole fish on the bone to share, lots of côte de boeuf, lots of whole lamb legs. The whole idea is not all family style eating, but if you want to come in and be sharing stuff, you can. But equally, rich, hearty, sort of bourgeois French cooking.
He mentioned his wife Ness there, and yeah, I feel like this project is very much a collaboration of between the two. Ness is taking care of, among other things, all the design. It wasn't finished when I swung by, / not quite started just yet. But it's going to be kind of all teals and blues. There's going to be a lovely copper bar and banquette seating. And the crockery has actually been hand thrown in Freddie's mum's studio.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Talent in that family.
There'll be a bottle shop here too and a wine bar. He actually mentioned he's gone rather all out with the wines.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
That is no problem with me at all.
So yeah, there's going to be some real beauties there. But that said, I really get the vibe this is going to be a super casual, really welcoming and warm neighbourhood restaurant. Great service, like kind of no pretension, just I'm super excited for it.
I'm really excited to pay that one.
Sounds very Freddie, which is a good thing, I think, for Bristol.
So yeah, you can follow the restaurant on Instagram at littlefrench_Bristol, and the website is littlefrench.co.uk.
The Finzel's Reach Bridge now makes a lot more sense to me.
Why is that, Dan?
It leads to this whopping new brew pub from some guys called Left-Handed Giant.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of that place.
Yeah, just a little thing popped up in the middle of town.
Worth crossing the river for?
Definitely, it's absolutely massive and it's brilliant.
I went there on Sunday and I agree, it's brilliant.
So if for those who haven't been down yet, there's a huge building which used to actually be a brewery, so very apt, with a huge covered outdoor area overlooking the river in Castle Park. It's very trendy and very Bristol. The production of the beer itself will actually stay in place at their brewery in St Phillips, which is fine because that's not far from my house.
Yeah, I thought they were going to move the whole production to the new brew pub. But yeah, I went there on Friday actually, and my friend was waiting for her friend. And after a couple of text exchanges, it transpired that the friend was at the tap room at the brewery, and she was waiting at the brew pub.
It's a classic miscommunication error.
I think the tap room needs a rename. Not sure what that is yet, but suggestions on a postcard. Left-Handed Giant have made some absolutely tip-top beers over the years. A couple of my favourites would be the Double Cheeseburger Cavalry.
That sounds like a bit of me.
That's a bit on brand. And for the 2019 Bristol Craft Beer Festival, they made a collaboration brew with some of the local other breweries called Alfonso, the Passionate Mangoose.
These names are incredible.
Mission Pizza have got in on the act, and they have installed a proper wood-fired Napoli pizza oven in the brew pub. I didn't realise Mission Pizzas, all their pizzas are veggie.
Yeah, there's one that has like a fennel sausage on it, but it's a veggie fennel sausage. But yeah, it's delicious.
They look great. I haven't had the chance to have one yet. I'm probably going to have to go there after work.
Any excuse. I mean, I suppose the real question is this the Bristol summer drinking destination?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think there's going to be a point, because it's got that big square opening where the sun's going to be like directly shining in, like something from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And like the views out into the river in Castle Park.
It's a very, very, for want of a better word, cool place. Cool.
Yeah, super buzzy downstairs as well. Last week, during Food Connections, the ethically focused, and multi-award winning, should I add, restaurant Poco hosted the Future Food Banquet at Colston Hall with the Chef's Manifesto. And they very kindly invited me to go down and check it out. So the premise was to bring together local chefs, food professionals and consumers to think about what a real sustainable diet would actually look like. So the night started off with a panel discussion on the topic, chaired by the wonderful Sheila Dillon. And then there was a meal cooked by some great local chefs. So there was Rob Howell from Root, Pete Sanchez from Casimir, Genevieve Taylor and Joe Ingleby, Ian Clark, he's the head chef at Poco, among others. So they each had to work with the manifesto points to cook fully sustainable dishes, and the menus had kind of the story of the dish behind it as well. It made for a really fascinating meal. So this week I went to chat to Jen Best and Ben Pryor. They own Poco along with eco-chef Tom Hunt, about why they decided to organise the event, like what impact they hoped it would have, and why Bristol was such a great place to help hold it.
So Chef's Manifesto is a global organisation, a network of chefs that are all coming together and signing up to the manifesto, which, as Jen said, is a series of 8 different key manifesto points or thematic areas. They were the product of a group of chefs coming together and just trying to identify what they felt the key points were that needed addressing to create a sustainable food system for the future that can work towards achieving the UN's Sustainable Development Goal 2, which is zero hunger and
improved nutrition.
Yeah, I think it basically recognises that as chefs and as restaurateurs, we're in a position of influence and we're able to inspire people. We set a lot of food trends, and in some ways, to a great extent, we set the trends and what is people are talking about in the food world. And so by using our platforms, whether you're a restaurant chef or a restaurant owner or someone like Tom who's not in the restaurant all the time but he does a lot of work in food, puts a lot of banquets on, he's like, by putting these key issues at the forefront of conversation, it reaches a lot of people.
Having positive hope is really, really important, obviously, but in the context of doing events like this, I think it's providing a good discussion point, it's providing inspiration, and it's giving people the idea and giving people the knowledge that we've got ourselves into this stage of the Anthropocene and we can get ourselves out again. And I don't think it's that out of our reach to change systems, and obviously there are huge obstacles in the way, but we have such a huge impact on our individual choice of what we choose to eat, and that's sort of obviously compounded by the restaurant choices, etc. And I think that just giving people enough information, they will make the right choice, and we have more, as a bunch of individuals, we have more purchasing power than the governments or the corporations. So we need to make those right choices, and collectively we can make a huge impact. So that is hopeful, I think.
There's something really special about being part of the food scene in Bristol, and that sense of collaboration and family that you get here. That, when we ran our restaurant in London, we didn't necessarily have the same atmosphere there. Although I'm sure there are amazing people doing amazing work in London too. Yeah, I think Bristol is at the forefront of it, in not just in food as well, but in the arts, in all sorts of areas, and it comes through collaboration, and that's the core of what the Chef's Manifesto is about, is people coming together. That's what we did on Monday night, was get a bunch of chefs who all know that we need to be taking the right steps, know we need to be doing the right things and advocating the right things, and by creating a vehicle where they could all come together and put their weight behind that message, I think we created something special, and hopefully through a Chef's Manifesto action hub here in Bristol and more action hubs elsewhere and around the world, hopefully that can have an impact on global food systems.
This kind of topic can be really dry and deflating sometimes, can't it? And kind of have a bit of a shaming feel to it. And there's loads of kind of like, don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
Kind of complex information. And it can just seem also unrealistic and also negative. But like you heard there, like these guys are so good at not only initiating these kind of conversations, but doing it in a really positive way.
Definitely.
So that, there was really great vibes at the meal, and really great discussions. It seemed to be a really positive thing. And I mean, it came about partly in response to the release of the Eat Lancet Commission, which is this kind of big scientific report into the food systems we have and the way it affects kind of not only our health, but also the health of the planet. It says that the single last driver of environmental degradation is the food system itself. So it looks at how we can viably produce enough healthy food for a growing population, which they estimate is going to be at 10 billion people by 2050.
Woo!
Yeah, while obviously maintaining our planet and making sure that we're not ruining it in the course of feeding everybody. I'll put the link in the show notes to that document. It is super interesting. It's obviously very long. So I won't go through it all now. Basically, the upshot is, like you would, it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. Like you would think, we need to double apparently our, intake of whole plants, so like legumes, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and halve our intake of things like meat, red meat, and sugar.
So what did they actually serve at the dinner then, Jess? Because if they're trying to, educate people, what did they actually bring to the table?
So there was a veggie menu and a meat menu. So they did serve meat, but there was a strong focus on using wild caught game and offal that's often wasted. So we had sweetbreads and then nose-to-tail rabbit.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it was great, actually. And it was portioned to be the recommended 1 week portion. So I tried to kind of not eat meat for the week around
really
the
interesting
event.
as well.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see what kind of one recommended portion of meat looks like.
Yeah.
I got the impression that they are planning some more events and have some more things up their sleeve too.
Exciting.
So keep an eye on them for more, definitely.
So in very exciting news, are you guys excited?
I'm ready.
Okay, you're excited and ready. We have got our Crumbs Awards judges lined up.
Ooh.
Boom!
I don't know who these are yet.
Well, I've got them in my hand.
I don't know.
Don't fret, I'm about to give everyone the lowdown.
Drop a knowledge bomb.
Hold on to your seat, Jen.
Mic drop. Okay, so the awards ceremony is going to come around really quickly, and the nominations are full steam ahead until the deadline on the 11th of July. If you're listening and you are part of a Bristol food and drink business or a Bath food and drink business, please do get involved. Entering is really easy, and the evening is one hell of a party. I'm talking more than 100 Negronis, I would estimate. So in terms of the judges, the calibre just seems to get higher every single year for the people that get involved. So you two, hold on tight, but this is who we have. First up, we've got Adrian Crickmar from the School of Food. He's quite prominent on the Bristol food scene in that he gets a lot of young people into cooking and into the industry. So I think he's going to bring a lot of knowledge to the judging panel. Then we've got Alice Bowyer. She is a group exec chef for the Buckham Group.
Nice.
We've also got Bryony May, who was a semi-finalist in the Bake Off.
Bake Off in the house.
She is in the house, and she's of Bristol stock, and she's really happy to be involved. So that's really exciting. We've also got Louise McCrimmon, head chef of Harvey Nichols, a powerhouse of a lady, and I'm really excited that she is going to be getting involved in the judging. We've also got Mary Cadigan. She is a food director, or was a food director of BBC Good Food. She's got numerous cookbooks, and she's now based down in Somerset, so it's a real privilege to have her on the judging panel. We've also got Nadia Thornhill from Pucker Herbs, again very experienced, has had 12 years in the industry, specialising in herbs and spices, so I'm sure she knows her stuff. We've also got Owen Morgan from Bar 44. Oh, he's just a lovely bloke, isn't he? First and foremost. He's also a certified sherry expert. He owns Bar 44 in Bristol and similarly Asador 44 in Cardiff, alongside a few other venues.
Great businessman. He's got quite a few now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if there's anything that he doesn't know about Spanish food and drink, then it ain't worth knowing, to be honest. We've also got Sam Roberts. He's a co-owner of Boston Tea Party. And last but not least, we've got Larkin Sen, MasterChef finalist and the owner of Wakiko, sort of restaurants.
What a list.
What a list.
It's really great that there's some good variety there. We've got some really great business people who work behind the scenes, people who work directly with food. And obviously they're all totally independent as well. So
absolutely. It's a real wealth of experience there that, like you say, they're all going to be thinking differently within, their own knowledge, but it's a real great pool of people. So makes it, the awards even more exciting, I think.
Just to remind everyone, the deadline for the Crumbs Awards is the 11th of July at midday.
Come on, people.
Tippy-tappy on your keyboard over to awards.crumbsmag.com and start your free application. You can save it as you go. It's not hugely long. You just want to know about your business, the story behind your business, and really get a feel for who you are and what you're trying to achieve. There are 19 categories this year, including everything from chef to drinks producer, innovative tech, restaurant, event, and the big one, the winner of winners.
Ooh!
11th July, do it.
Definitely, everyone in the industry works so hard, so treat yourself.
Yeah.
Have a night to celebrate all that's great in Bath and Bristol.
Totally, and there should 100%, whatever your role is in the food and drink industry, there should be a category for you. We really wanted this to be a holistic celebration of the food scene as a whole. So yeah, get on it. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Crumbs Magazine podcast. We would love to hear from you.
If you want to get in touch with us, just tweet us at CrumbsMag. If there's anything pressing that you think we need to cover, or just anything that you've come across lately, we'd love to hear it.
And you can keep up to date with all the latest features from the mag and beyond at crumbsmag.com.
Bye!
Can we have a Negroni now?